Hello and welcome to the second camping video for Brendan Goes Outside. Today we are in the ghost town of Kwolyin, and those who have a membership on Brendan's Odyssey may recognise this place. I've been here before as part of a membership video, but I was in the local area actually filming a video for Brendan's Odyssey. I'll get into that later. I thought I might camp here again because the last time I camped here we had some very unfortunate neighbours, so I've always wanted to come back. It's starting to get warm. Today it's like 30, but it's going to get cooler throughout the night, so it's somewhat bearable. But I think this just may be the last camp for this year. But currently we're in the former ghost town. Sorry, I already said that, ghost town. Former tennis club is what I meant to say. So throughout this video, we will go into the history of Kwolyin and why it is no more. But for now, we're going to set up the camp. This is the spot I've got picked out. Under here is bitumen because, like I said, it used to be a tennis club. So basically I'm going to pull the awning out and see if we can get the pegs in for that. And if we can't, we're going to have to move. But this would be a pretty good spot. Otherwise, we're sort of away from the rest of the camp. It's a little bit more isolated. So yeah, we'll crack this awning out and we'll see if it works. And just a side note, I'm not going to go through every single little bit of my car camping setup in this video. Check out my video where I have done a deep dive, but there is some new equipment and stuff like that we're using today, so I will highlight that when we get to it. So yeah, let's try and get set up. Oh, by the way, Annika's here too. Say hi, Annika. So as you can see, we're no longer at the tennis club, because there were too many ants and the bitumen was just too numerous, which is fair. You know, it is a tennis court after all. We've decided to hit the outskirts of the camp. So I don't know if you can see that structure through the trees there. I believe that's the toilet block, so we're not too far away from the amenities. The camp isn't too busy. There's maybe 6 or 7 other caravans here. And I'm going to give this spot a go. It's a little bit weedy, but it is flat. I do have a new mat. It's one of the new items I'm using on this camp. So we'll put that down and we'll see how we go. There's no ants' nests immediately in the awning area. Over there, perpendicular to those 3 trees would have been better, but there is an ant's nest there. And I also didn't want to be too close to this because that looks like it's about to drop off. Or it could be there for another 20 years, but you just don't know. Okay, so this is the mat I was talking about. By the way, nothing is sponsored. This is a King's 3x3 meter mesh flooring. I bought this from 4-wheel drive Supercenter in Midland. It's only 35 bucks. You may have seen in the previous video I was using this mat that Annika found, which is like a picnic mat. Unfortunately, just because it's designed for grass, it has no permeability, and there was a bunch of mold on the bottom of it that I found the last time I packed it up. So unfortunately that went in the bin. So sorry about that, Annika. But this one has tough reinforced outlets for any weather conditions. A 9 square meter area, ideal for any camp setup. It sounds like I learned how to read yesterday. Basically it has a weave design, that's what I'm looking for. So it keeps the sand and dirt out of your campsite, so basically little particles can go through it. But it can also breathe. So like I said, this area is a bit weedy, but hopefully it'll sort of just get flattened down a little bit with the mat. And we'll never be able to fold this back up as nicely as it was, ever. I'm just incapable of folding things. Same for maps. Like when they fold out, I can just never get them to fold back in correctly again. It's just a skill that I do not possess. I do have some pegs to peg this down too, but I'm setting this up now because I want to put the awning poles over the top of it. It's bigger. I mean, I guess I knew how big it was, 3x3 meters, but actually seeing it in action. Luckily I bought some extra pegs too, because on that last camp I bent a couple. Okay, those observant enough may have realized that I folded it upside down. So thanks to Annika for pointing that out. So we're now the correct way up. Awning is up. And each corner is pegged in using the eyelets. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It's helped flatten out the weeds a lot as well. So I guess I probably should reserve the final opinion until after we finish using it for this one camp. But so far, $35 well spent. Okay, camp's more or less set up, including the bed. I'll just quickly show you that if you haven't seen it before. There's my platform that folds out, and there's just a self-inflating mattress in there. Plenty of room for 2 people. And I have both slept in there together maybe 3 times, 4 times maybe. So like I said, check out my first camping video if you want to know more about the setup. But today we're going to use something we didn't in the last video, and that's this, the Speedy Chain Shelter Deluxe. It's new, larger, and a more convenient size.
As opposed to the last one we had.
Yeah, well, this is the deluxe version.
Oh.
Yeah. So this cost $69. I bought this from Tent World. Again, not sponsored. They are a good shop though, go check them out. And yeah, supposedly pretty easy to set up, so I guess we'll see. Okay, so those look like the rods, the poles, floor mat, pegs. Oh, Jesus. I kind of expected that, but also didn't at the same time. I'm more worried about getting it back into the bag. Lousy adventures. Time to hit the road. I'm unsure what the next step is. I think this bit folds out towards me. Yeah, it's just the, you're supposed to be able to do it as one person. The problem is the wind's hitting it, as you can see. I'm trying to fold it out and the wind's blowing it back shut. It's like a big wind sail. Maybe it folds out the other way. Like, no, doesn't want to do that. I don't understand. Okay, stop filming for a sec. Hi. Okay, so credit to Annika for actually getting it unfolded. I did have a YouTube video saved offline, luckily, because the reception here isn't very good. All made in that video, I had it sideways, unfolded it, and then sort of pushed it out to create the boxy shape. So I'm just gonna bang in the internal pegs. Hopefully it doesn't blow away in the meantime. Wind sail. Just look at these tiny things. Gonna need a better zoom on the camera for these. But the zoom on this camera is you walk forward. So close. So usually I don't film the first some equipment for this exact reason, but I guess it's kind of funny. Well, that peg just pulled straight up. The pegs aren't long enough. The ground's too soft. I don't even know where that, yeah, here we go. Okay, there is more guy lines, luckily. So now we'll set up the posts, not the posts, the poles. Wasn't windy at all until I decided to set this thing up. Okay, so it is, I don't know, 20 minutes later. The product itself is good, but the pegs it come with are way too short. So next trip I'm going to buy some longer pegs, because I did have a few longer ones left over. It doesn't actually give you enough pegs for all the guy lines in the internal corners, by the way. I think there was only 6 pegs. You know, there should be 8. So, but I would be more salty, but pegs don't cost too much. But yeah, this is it. Well, it's $69. Nice, will get you. Got a towel rack, got a little toiletries bag. Look at all this privacy I'm having.
Oh, maybe not.
There we go, hopefully I can get out now. It's pretty warm in here, but we do have little windows. Oh yeah, look at that. What a view to wake up to as I sleep here standing up. What's sleep standing up? Cows? Do cows sleep standing up?
I feel like they sit down.
Horses? Mrrr.
Yeah?
No. Tell me in the comment section which animal sleeps standing up.
What about giraffes?
No, I feel like giraffes get down on their knees.
Down on their knees?
Modern mysteries of life. If I had internet connection, I would look it up. It's another whinge I have about this product. You can see right now that it's not quite square because I haven't really put the poles properly into position. Partially the reason for that is because it doesn't come with an instruction manual. It tells you twice in the packaging and on a bit of paper how to fold it up, which is all well and good because I'm sure I'm going to struggle with that equally tomorrow. But I shouldn't have to be looking up videos on YouTube of how to put it up. I know it's simple, but like when it's blowing all over the place and the pegs aren't long enough, kind of turns it into a bit of a shit situation as is. So yeah, I don't know. Speedy, if you're watching, I know you're not, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Now we can get changed in privacy. Annika for scale. Okay, I give that about a 4 in 10 chance of being blown away at some point, but we do have some massive rocks over the pegs. So, like I said, I'll get some new pegs for those for next time. For the time being, let's have a little chat about old Kwolyin town, which is right in front of me, as you can see. So the town actually started in 1912 as a store that was located where the main road is now, which is sort of just running along there, and hopefully we don't get kept up by trucks and whatnot through the night. Excuse me. So, as I said, it was along the main road, but it was near 2 large outcrops, which we can't see. We'll probably go check those out tomorrow morning. So this shop was established by a chap named J.B. Harris. And the manager of that store, his name was Ernie Bales, he would end up leaving that store and setting up a sly grog shop out of a tent. So the mention of the sly grog shop is pretty interesting. So like I said, I was filming a video for Brendan's Odyssey in Bruce Rock. I've mentioned this in another video, but I'm making a Brendan's Odyssey video about all the old state hotels that used to exist around Western Australia. Government owned and built pubs. Bruce Rock was one of them. So I've nearly been to all of them. I've been to Kwolyin. Kwolyin was one of them, so we'll get into that in a second. Let me just change hands here. So there we go, I think that's a little bit better. So there was one here in Kwolyin, there was one at Bruce Rock, there was one in Wongan Hills. I actually went there before I filmed my last camping video. There's one in Bulgart, I haven't been there yet, and the last one's in Dwellingup. I've been there before, but not to film. And these were established because of the sly grog shops, which were essentially illegal bottle shops and pubs. So there was one of these in, did I mention Kwolyin? Yeah, Kwolyin was the other one. So we've been to Kwolyin in a Brendan's Odyssey video. So if you're not aware, actually I have it in my notes, sly grog shops were basically unlicensed bottle shops. This particular shop was well known because it sold a spirit called Trophy Whiskey. Sounds like it would make you go blind if you drank too much, if I'm going to be honest. So the town was gazetted in 1913, with lots going on sale in July of that same year. This was one day before Bruce Rock went on sale, but like I saw, Bruce Rock is still a rather large town, not the biggest, but still active, like it's still here for one. The name Kwolyin is derived from an Aboriginal name of the nearby granite outcrop, which, like I said, we'll check out tomorrow morning. I think there's a little bit of mystery as if it is actually named after a Aboriginal word or not. I think that's just the sort of thing that's been lost to time. So we've just walked from over there where you can see, I don't know how well you can see that, but that's where we're camped. Around here is the approximate location of the school. Now the other locations have plaques. This one doesn't, so I can't be certain, but I'm just basing this off coordinates from the Heritage Council. But this school was built in 1927 and also included a quarters for the teachers. It operated in the hall on and off beforehand, but we'll get into that in a second. That's what the hall was over there. Eventually the school closed in 1957 because of low patronage, and along with the teachers' quarters was relocated to Shackleton. So I've done a bit of filming around here. While I've already filmed in this campsite, and today I filmed in Bruce Rock, I've also filmed in Shackleton. I released a video there called "Was This the World's Smallest Bank?" or something to that effect. And in my research, yes, it may have been the smallest bank in the world. Just down here in the Wheatbelt in Shackleton. So yeah, is that a beer that's not opened? Oh, look at that, unopened beer. $10 to whoever comes here and drinks that. Let's head over to where the hall was. So here's the location of the school, which actually does have a plaque. So you can pause that and read that if you like. It's cool that there's actually a photo of it, I think. Yep, Kwolyin Hall with farming machinery circa 1920. I found it very difficult to actually find photos of Kwolyin online, but I will show what I have found. So this hall was built in 1914. Apparently before that, they used to just go to someone's house because he had a piano and a wooden floor for dancing. But they eventually built this one in 1914, and it was used for many purposes, both for business and leisure. But the school was also based from this building from 1920. However, there was an infestation of fleas, which led to the dedicated building being built over there somewhere. I found a 1943 pricing list to hire the hall. Using it as a church or as a temporary school was free, but social events, meetings, etc., they all had a charge. Interestingly, it was more expensive to hire out at night. I guess they were factoring in the cost to turn on the lights, maybe. You know, back then I can imagine electricity cost a bit more. Anyway, the town hall was the centre point of socialisation in the small town for decades, but was ultimately demolished in the 1970s after it fell into disuse. And I can't see any evidence that it used to be here. I can't see any concrete footings or anything. After that, the pub was the centre of activity, but we'll get to that in due course. We'll just have a little bit of a walk around here just in case I do come across something, but no. Probably didn't even have a concrete slab. As you saw, it was wood, so it probably was up on wooden stirrups or stumps, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, demolished it and that was it. Gone. Just like a fart in the wind. So I believe this was more or less one of the main streets of Kwolyin, or Kwolyin. Railway station would have been around here somewhere. We'll get to that. But this corner lot here was where the hotel was. The Kwolyin State Hotel. And what a grand building it was. I'll throw up some photos now. Just drink that in. What an amazing structure. Looks like we do have a little bit of infrastructure here left. Not sure how deep that is, and I don't feel like finding out. Over here was the location of the grand Kwolyin Hotel. So we do have some footings here to give us an idea of once was. So this was built in 1914, and like I said, like 5 times, it was a state hotel. And yeah, this was the center point of socialization. Again, you can pause that and read that if you like. So I found a full-page ad in a 1940s tourist brochure, which is pretty cool to find. It claimed it was well appointed, had excellent cuisine, and every convenience. And I mean every convenience. So where is the pub? Well, unfortunately that is a bit of a sad story. So just for your reference, you aren't allowed to collect firewood here, just to help the, the animals and all that have their little ecosystems, habitats, I should say. And this is the area you're allowed to camp in. So when we first arrived, we rocked up at the tennis club. That was around here somewhere. And we're currently around here somewhere. So what happened to the Kwolyin Hotel? Well, like many things, it was fire. So just rewinding a little bit, the state government did consider the pub a bit of a financial burden. It was one of the last buildings in town, and even by the time, when was this, 1960? There wasn't a lot left. So it did continue to run, so it was sold into private ownership, and it actually ran all the way up until 1992, so about 33 years ago. But unfortunately, it was sadly lost in a fire, and not only was the pub lost, but also many historical photographs and other memorabilia about the town was inside and also lost, which is a massive shame. I think arson was always suspected, but in 2012, a full 20 years after the fire, a couple from Port Kennedy were charged with fraud and criminal damage, which is nuts. Apparently, Wheatbelt detectives had reopened the case in 2011 after the discovery of new evidence. So my guess is that the accused eventually spilt the beans to someone who probably wasn't too fond of the idea of them burning down such a wonderful structure. Or one of them ratted on the other one. I wish I knew the outcome. I don't have any other information, but if you do have any juicy information, I would love to know. But regardless, like I said, it was a magnificent building, double story, brick, and situated on a very prominent half-acre corner lot. I would have loved to have sunk a pint here. That would have been absolutely amazing. Okay, so there's a pub. Here is actually a bitumen road. Let's head down the road a little bit and check out the last remaining building from the town's heyday, which is the church. So here we are, the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church, Kwolyin, which is administered by the Bruce Rock Catholic Parish. Funnily enough, when we were in the Bruce Rock pub, just to have a pint and do some filming before we came here, the Reverend was actually in there having a drink himself. Not alcoholic, I think he had a can of Coke or a bottle of water or something like that, but not what I expected walking into a country pub. So, I've lost my notes. 1 second, please. So, church services were originally held in the town hall, just like the school. But eventually this opened in late 1955, thanks to community efforts, local builders, fundraising, all that sort of stuff. I'd imagine this would have been one of the last buildings to be constructed on the town site. And while regular Sunday services stopped all the way back in 1976, the building is in still occasional use. As you can see from the sign, I think it said the next service will be held here on the 19th of April. So yeah, this is really the last original building of Kwolyin. Nothing new would be built here until, well, basically the toilet block in the camp, really. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way to get in, and you can't really see through the window either. Well, you kind of can. Not much going on in there though. Be nice to go in. I'm a good boy, I promise. I'm not going to do any damage. Look at this guy. Hello. Yeah, these doors have no handles. Oh well, obviously not supposed to go in there. That's fine. The only door with a handle and a lock is the one at the rear, so I guess the Reverend rocks up, lets him in through the back, and then opens the front doors for everyone else to come in and have a service. So, do we check out the old toilet block? Could be fun, could be gross, maybe a bit of both. I would say I wasn't expecting that, but I've been here before, so I was expecting that. Not really sure what the toilet was. There's no plumbing in the floor or anything. I guess there must have been some sort of structure out the back. Anyway, that's the church. Let's go check out the rest of the site. The rest of the town, I should say. which I guess is now a site because it's not really a town, but yeah, anyway. So there's a church back there. All of these were subdivided lots. I'm not sure exactly how many houses were ever in Kwolyin, but they would have been in there and potentially over there as well. We're going to head this way and check out the remains of the train station. So it was April the last time I came here, so everything was quite a bit greener. And yeah, it was quite overgrown, although the weeds here are pretty high, so you couldn't really see too much. Hopefully today we can discover a little bit more. So blink and you miss it. Here's the railway line, which unfortunately is still quite overgrown. I will just quickly show you some drone footage I shot last time. It was actually more visible sort of in April than it is now. The train station was around here somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. I have a basic idea. There wasn't really that substantial of a building. It was mostly just a basically a goods shed. This is one of my backup camping spots down through there. I think it's where the sewage system was. I think that's what that plaque up there is about. I won't bother going down there now, but as I'm walking, I'll just fade in some footage that I filmed last time. There's also a pretty cool creek. It was dry when we went, and it would definitely be dry right now, but it looks like this. How scenic is that? So here we go. Wastewater evaporation pond. And that's it over there, which was what I already showed you in footage I filmed months and months ago. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping it'd be a little bit more clearer around here, and maybe I could find where that goods shed was. Looked like it was on top of a concrete platform, which I assume is still there. But oh well. Just have you know that it's in there somewhere. So the railway would open in 1912, which travelled between Quairading and Bruce Rock. The line ran parallel along one of the main roads, which we were walking along before. Those are bitumised ones, the bitumised road. And yeah, at the time it was called Railway Street, but these days it's called the Coarin Town Road. The train station had a wheat bin as well, but this was demolished in 1971. And in my notes here I say, it's hard to tell how much of the train station remains, as the area is quite overgrown. Yes, yes it is. But like Shackleton, the train track hasn't been pulled up, which is always cool. But the section closed all the way back in 1985. So it's interesting they haven't pulled it up. Maybe one day they'll reactivate it, but it's looking pretty rusty. So unfortunately I wasn't really able to find any good photos of what the town used to look like overall photos, if you know what I mean. I've just been able to find photos here and there. But around here was the location of a shop. And we can see that there was once a plaque here, and now there is not. Yes, well, lucky you have me. You wouldn't know there was a shop here. Like I haven't really found the remains of any footings of any nature except for where the pub is. But you know how I said before that the store was originally between the two granite outcrops. It eventually moved here across the road from the train station, and it was the only store in town until 1949. A handful of people ran it over the years, but unfortunately, just like the pub afterwards, it also burned down in 1967. Okay, big return to the tennis club. Ooh. So again, you can pause that and have a bit of a read if you like. Oh, we nearly have a photo of the town site there. Kwolyin's main street, circa 1958. Yeah, well, there you go. Got a good shed there on the left. Actually, I think that must have been the wheat bin. Anyway, while the church is still fully intact, at least here we have some ruins. And I would have liked to have camped here, but we are currently walking on the remains of the tennis court. which is hard to see in some spots. I thought we could maybe camp over there. It's nice and shady. And I thought it was dirt, but then you kick around in what you think is a dirt for a little bit, and there's bitumen only like a centimetre under the surface, if that. So around here, and also just anywhere back in those days, tennis was extremely popular. By 1935, this local club had 100 members with an extremely long waiting list to get in. But as the town's population dwindled, the club was eventually wound down in the 1950s and then was completely shut in 1962. And like I've so helpfully written in my notes, today you can still see the remains of the clubhouse and the tennis courts. So obviously when they've decided to shut everything up, they've just taken everything of value, taken out the door frames, window frames, the roof. But yeah, this would have been some old bottles there, that's pretty cool. Some sport. Yeah, this would have been the remains of the tennis club. Do I have anything more in my notes? Yes, I do. So just to the south of this old tennis club, which is over there somewhere, you'll find a cricket pitch, and there's people camping nearby, so I'll just again cut to some footage I shot back in April. The reason a cricket pitch is over there is because all of this used to be the town's oval. So this was used from the early 1930s. So the campground is actually on the oval, and yeah, it would have, luckily there is a sign in front of the cricket pitch because it would be just about impossible to find otherwise. It's in a lot of growth. The oval was used for football until 1958, but polo cross was played here until 1970. 1970 seems to more or less be the end of the town. Let's have a bit of an explore around here. I do love the texture on the bricks. It's a little bit different, isn't it? And we can see where the poles supporting the fence around the tennis club once was. We even have the surrounding fencing or netting or whatever you want to call it. Someone's wound it up into a big bowl. I'm pretty sure that was on the ground last time I came here. I think someone shoved it in the tree. And yeah, this is one of the places where you can actually sort of find stuff. And cricket, football, polo, cross, tennis, it wasn't the only sport played around here. There was also golf, but we'll try and find remnants of that tomorrow morning. But yeah, I think this is probably a good place to try and take a thumbnail. How was that? No, can't do that one. Sun needs to be on my face. Being blinded by the sun right now. Hopefully that's okay, because I was looking at the screen and I could not see much at all. Okay, sun is starting to set. I'm going to head back to the campsite now. Maybe put some dinner on. On the way back, I am just going to check the other side of the road opposite to where the camp is. Supposedly that was all subdivided lots originally, so yeah, I don't know, might just go around there and see if we can find some, I don't know, some concrete footings, the odd brick, you know, exciting stuff like that. So we can see some remains of, I don't know, maybe the beer garden. Bottles in check. Yeah, super sad this was deliberately burnt down. That makes me quite upset, really. Makes me really want a pint. So it looks like we potentially have some remains of the pub. Got some bricks and other junk. And yeah, potentially beams that went around, formed the sort of the patio. I mean, could be anything really. What does this sign say? No trespassing, private property. Well, sorry. I guess if I saw that sign from elsewhere, I wouldn't have done that. Although I do wonder if that was painted by the people who were charged with the arson and the fraud and deliberately burnt it down. If that is the case, fuck you, eat shit. And if not, I'm sorry for trespassing. I won't do it again. Please do not sue me. I can see a plaque over there. Let's go and investigate. So just for context, we're camped over there. This is Coarin Road, I believe. I did see that there was a plaque down here. And I didn't actually come over to this part of the old town site last time I was here, apart from the church. So I'll go over there and see what that plaque says. And if I do find anything, I'll probably have to run back to camp and grab another battery. So again, pause here if you would like to read that. But it's about a mechanic that used to be here. So I can't see any remains of any kind of building. But apparently old mate lived in tents behind there. What was his name? Mr. Bosnick, something like that. But yeah, apparently he was a beloved member of society of the town site. And this was his digs plus garage, which has only been used as a campsite recently, but yeah, kind of nice. There was some context. I didn't actually find any information about the mechanic or his house when doing any research online prior. So I can't say I did that much exploring, but I was unable to find any concrete footings or bricks or anything like that. Yeah, unsure how built up this town was. Fortunately, it's too remote to have any good sort of historical aerial photography. The latest, or the earliest I should say, goes back to 1999, where it looked pretty much the same. But it looks like we do have a plaque on a rock over here, which I didn't notice before. And if I was a betting man, I'd say it's for the school. There we go. This cairn marks the site of the Kwolyin town site school, serving the children of the area, 1920 to 1956. And I do believe this was I do believe this was approximately where I was saying the school was before, using the Heritage Council's very great, what am I trying to say as I'm walking into the sun and blinding myself? I'll link all the entries I use for information down in the description. But the great thing about it is they usually give you an interactive map and they show you exactly where it is. It's like just like a layer over Google Maps, but it's extremely useful because yeah, you just wouldn't know otherwise. Obviously they have access to the old surveyed data, and yeah, that's been inputted into their system. And yeah, this is where school was. Anyway, let's go back to camp. I'm both thirsty for water, but then I'll be thirsty for beer. How are we doing over here?
Yeah. Come on.
Okay, before I sit down and drink too much beer, I might just show you some amenities of the campsite, just while we still have some light, and also while there isn't too many people about. So I do believe all of this is somewhat modern, sort of built in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. That's where we camped last time. So most of the area is for camper vans and caravans, but there is some tent camping over here as well. So there's the amenities block. We do have a pretty clean shelter here, relatively modern benches, a guide to all the local wildflowers, which is good for someone like me who's completely clueless, and a barbecue. That is actually quite clean for once. So big ups to, I think this is run by the Shire of Bruce Rock. I literally just looked over that sign and was able to see it. So yeah, and this is also free as well. How's that for a kitchen view? There is another more enclosed stove here, but you will need to bring your own gas. And then just for those who want to know, there is a flushing toilet with solar lights, so that is really cool. But yeah, that is that. Did I mention this is free? I think you can only stay here for a maximum of 72 hours or something like that, but yeah, a really top quality campsite. So like I said, I did camp sort of over there somewhere last time, and it was actually Easter, so the place was a lot busier than it is right now. You know, it wasn't 30 degrees. I do have a bit of a story to tell, but there are some people walking in front of me, so I'll tell you it in a moment.
Thank you.
Whew, feels good to sit down. So I'm currently on 11,500 steps, most of which was probably me exploring the old town site. I haven't really walked anywhere today otherwise. So like I was saying, we camped here last April during Easter, and we did rock up kind of late in the day. It wasn't too late, it was sort of mid-afternoon. And like I said, it was relatively busy, but we still found a spot. We're actually pretty amazed at the spot we did find, since it was so close to the toilet. Got everything set up, the awning, started to put dinner on. And then about 5 o'clock, the neighbors from hell rocked up. And I saw them circling around. They actually drove past our campsite once and kept going. And I remember saying to Annika, like, glad they kept going. And I think that jinxed us, because about 5 minutes later, they all rocked up again. They were in, there was 3 or 4 vehicles, and there was 3 generations of family. And the troublemakers were the oldest generations, the grandparents. So they rock up, they're already drunk, they're already arguing, and then someone else in the family started a generator, which is just, it wasn't even plugged into anything. They were in tents, they weren't even in the caravan, so I don't even know what the purpose of the generator was. Luckily they did turn it off, even those within the family group weren't so happy about that. And long story short, they kept us up to about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I accidentally released one of the valves on our mattress and it deflated during the night. So I just ended up having the worst night. And it would have just been the most perfect camp otherwise. Like, it was busy, but not too busy. The weather was perfect. There was no bugs, unlike today. No rain. Yeah, it was just a real shame. The guy, he was Greek, and he was from the town of Calabarin. I had to think about that. I remember because I saw a sign for that today. And yeah, it's really put me off ever going to Calabarin. But I feel sorry for the people of Calabarin having to live next to such a loud and annoying drunk man. He wasn't so loud the next morning. He was sitting there looking pretty sorry for himself. I saw him, he was like literally like swigging out of a whiskey bottle or something like that. And like I pointed out before, bushfires were allowed at that time, but you're not allowed to scavenge, just to help the local environment, the local habitats, etc. They were pulling limbs off trees, pulling in branches from all sorts of places. I really should have just been a dobber. I know dobbers kiss robbers, but I should have just dobbed them into the Ranger, taken photos of their number plate, stuff like that. Yeah, screw them. We were going to have such a good camp otherwise, and they've ruined it, not just for us, but everyone else within the surrounding area. And I think what annoys me the most is there was still plenty of room, especially around this area, plenty of flat room, and they set up within 10 meters of our camp. And the only reason I can think of that they did that was because of the proximity to the toilet block. So yeah, lesson learned. I'm never setting up next to the toilet block ever again. Here's Annika enjoying my home cooked meal. Delicious, isn't it? That's right.
Smells pretty good.
She's been sarcastic because there's supposed to be red lentils, but I forgot to pack them. Sorry. Okay, it's a little bit later in the night. We've had dinner, we've even washed up. Doesn't take long when there's two. I thought I would go through some extra information I found about Kwolyin, which there isn't a lot out there, but I found a few fun tidbits which I'll share with us now. So this first one is from a magazine in the September of 1954. Just be warned that it does include a little bit of language of its time about the First Nations. Nothing too horrible, nothing I need to bleep, but I thought I'd just give you a fair warning anyway. Okay, so I believe this story is about Kwolyin's old Chief Wiggum. The magazine article is titled Constable Injured. So Constable, and I'll just read it to you verbatim, Constable E.G. Cunnington, the Quairading agent for Western Aborigine, accidentally shot himself while chasing a native near Kwolyin recently. Constable Cunnington was investigating a report of a disturbance by natives when he tripped in the darkness and was accidentally shot with his own pistol. The bullet went through the upper right arm and entered his body. The disturbance occurred near the Kwolyin Hotel, where we were just before. When Constable Cunnington arrived, he arrested two natives. Another native ran into the bush when the constable called out to question him. Constable Cunnington was taken to Royal Perth Hospital, where the bullet was removed. So there you go. Fell over and shot himself. Doesn't get better than that. Actually, it does get better than that, because I found another magazine article from the December of 1973, also about Kwolyin. It's about 6 rams who were living in an air-conditioned caravan. It doesn't really give much context, apart from it being a, quote, experimental artificial insemination venture. I'll say that again. Experimental artificial insemination venture. It does talk how, in the context of the 1970s, even then aircon wasn't very common around here, but it says if you want to live in a caravan with a couple of rams, apparently there was something like 18,000 across the entire lease. Lastly, I just want to mention a trip we did to the National Gallery of Victoria recently when we were in Melbourne, probably about a month ago. I was pleasantly surprised to find a painting by a Noongar artist called Lindsay Harris. Harris actually grew up in Kwolyin, and the paintings reflect the former town site and the life that he used to live here. So I thought that was pretty cool, going through the town site. I was not expecting in the Melbourne Art Gallery to see a painting of Kwolyin. That's about it. I don't really have much more to say about Kwolyin, but we will do a little bit more exploring tomorrow morning. I'm hoping to find the remains of the golf club, because I didn't go down that way last time we were here. And there also might be a well or a spring on the side of the rock. I'm not sure. That's just another thing I found on Inherit. I do want to talk a little bit about my camping setup. So it's been close to a year since I originally built that platform when we were still living in Bayswater, and I had a garage, which was good for that sort of thing. I built that literally within 2 months of us leaving, probably during the Christmas holidays. It's been good the last year. I've been on probably 6 or 7 camping trips over the year with it, maybe even more. But I feel like it's time to do a version 2.0. So the biggest thing that we don't like about this platform is that it's too high up. It's pretty comfortable once you're in there, and it's fine to sleep, but it's a little bit hard to get in and out, especially me. I am 6'2". So I'm thinking at the moment, as you can see, there's the storage underneath. I'm gonna get rid of that and basically bring the platform down as low as I can while still keeping it completely flat. And all the storage I plan to put on the roof. So I'm thinking of buying one of those rooftop storage, I don't even know what they're called. Those aerodynamic things that sit on top of the roof bars. The roof bars I have currently, they're only rated, I think from memory, to 100 kilos. So I'm probably going to need to get new roof bars, because I don't think that and the awning, and then whatever I put into the storage, which will basically be anything that goes underneath, mainly the storage containers, some of the smaller tables and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the plan. But Like I've said, I think this will probably be the last camp of the year. It's going to be nearly 40 degrees on Monday. So it's not too bad now. It's probably, I'd say it's probably about 25 degrees now with a little bit of a breeze. So it's quite nice. Should be comfortable enough for sleeping.
It's more like 19 degrees.
Annika reckons it's more like 19 degrees. I'm just going off the weather forecast I read earlier today. But there is a bit of a breeze, so it could feel colder because of that. But yeah, I think that will be a project for the new year in the months leading up to autumn at the end of summer. So yeah, stay tuned. Good morning. Slept pretty well actually, slept about 7.5 hours in the automobile. And this morning I think we're going to go for a bit of an explore around the rocks, and there's a few things around there I want to see if I can spot. And as predicted, the changing tent did not last the night. Luckily I was still awake when it fell over, so I was able to put some rocks on it just to stop it from, you know, getting too far away from the camp. This one little guy line is basically stopping it from going anywhere. So I may have seemed a little bit negative yesterday, but I was very unhappy about the length of the pegs, and just coupled with the very soft ground, it was just a recipe for disaster. So I'll definitely use it again, but I'll come back armed with longer pegs. And it has gotten a bit breezy, which was kind of good in the car. Sort of made sure it wasn't hot in there. And the touch wood, the awning has stayed up, but that's actually yet to fail us. So yeah, let's go for a walk. So this is the remains of the second tee of Kwolyin's 9-hole golf course. It says located on this site. Not really too much to see. But yeah, apparently all of this was a golf course. So we're going to head up this track now and see if there's any remains of the club for the golf course. And then we'll circle around and go up and down that big rock. Looks like we do have the remains of potentially a bitumised road at some point. So yeah, this is actually new territory for me. I didn't actually venture down this way last time we camped here. I'm trying to find the location of this old clubhouse for the golf course, and the bitumen road leads up to that existing road there. The walk trail is actually back that way. I haven't seen any plaques. The map I viewed approximately located it at the crossroad of the old road and the walking path. So I'll just see what this sign over here says. Okay, well that's just a sign for the nature reserve. Track closed. What's all this about? Yeah, you can see the train line there. It's an old level crossing. Up there is the tennis club that goes around up to where the pub and the old store, etc. was. And the train line runs off in that direction, up towards Quairading, I think. Anyway, let's get back onto the track. Maybe we're actually yet to pass where the clubhouse was. So here's the intersection of the old road and the walking trail. I can't see any plaques or anything around. At least not here to signify the existence of the old club. So I might just give up on that and just keep following the track. Maybe we'll still get lucky yet. Getting a bit overgrown through here. Nathan Drake. Little did I realise, I've been walking along the train line the entire time. I've seen a few of those utility poles. But yeah, how about that? So we're currently circling around this big granite outcrop. On the other side is supposedly the remains of a well or a spring, I'm not really sure. The listing I read says site of well, but you know, a well's a well, surely there's a hole in the ground or something. So yeah, I guess we won't know till we go look. Well, I don't even know if you can see that. We're basically bang on the coordinates I set in Google Maps, and yeah, nothing. It is a little bit difficult to see through all the big weeds. Not a good day to be wearing shorts, I'll give you that hot tip. Maybe in there? It's too hard to say. Well, maybe Inherit wasn't wrong when it said site of. Maybe they filled it in. Maybe it's a spring that's run dry. Oh well, at least we came out here and looked. So let's get on top of that rock. Looks like I found an old dump site. Yeah, no, this looks modern. I mean, littering is littering, but I guess it's kind of cool when it's old. Like, what was that thing?
It's like an ashtray, maybe.
You could probably turn it into an ashtray.
I know, you know, like the metal ones with the spinny thing in it?
Yeah. Whew. I am happy to be out of that, even though now I'm going to walk up a big rock. But like I said, not a good day for shorts. My legs are feeling a little bit itchy. Look at that, we've already got views. Not even to the top yet. When we visited back in April, there was all these rock pools on top, full of tadpoles. But
Only one of them.
okay, only one of them had tadpoles, but there were still tadpoles regardless. And since we're heading into summer, I highly doubt there'll be any tadpoles today. Maybe we'll see some frogs. So this rock pool's empty. Well, there is water in this one, so let's go see if there's any signs of life. Oh, there's another one over there as well. I guess these must have been the deeper ones. Doesn't look like there's much going on in there. As you can see, there's the main road. Let's go check out this cairn. Well, I've seen photos where there were signs attached to this. Maybe someone's nicked them. But yeah, check out the view from the top of the big rock. Pretty good, eh? I'm pretty certain this was the biggest rock pool the last time we were here. I think this is where we saw the tadpoles, or maybe that was over there. Up here is a good test of my little microphone. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. Hopefully it's not just... And here we are, there's a pretty good overview of the town site where we camped last night. Not a bad place to call home for a single night anyway. The ants were starting to get a little bit nuts. Well, they were this morning anyway. But all this along here was originally the golf course. Behind that, where the campsite is, that was the oval. And sort of the main town site was sort of behind that and up and along there where the train line is. Now to head down. I think going up the other way is definitely a lot easier. Walking up here last time wasn't that easy. Walking down's pretty easy though. And you know what I'm gonna say. It looks way less steep on camera. But today I don't mind, because I'm going down. Okay, so that's what we just came down. They call that the railway walk, or in the Granite Gardens walk. We're gonna have a bit of a mosey down this way, down to the Cathedral Rocks across the road. There's nothing over there in particular I'm looking for. I just want to have a look just because I haven't before. We didn't last time. Probably just be a case of going up the rock and then coming back down because I'm starting to get a little bit hungry. I'm ready for breakfast. Okay, rock number 2. Thinking about food now. We had chili con carne last night. I've got some leftover diced tomatoes, and black beans, and capsicum. We are gonna cook all that together with some snags. It's gonna be a good breakfast. So here we are more or less to the top. That's the big rock we were just on. This is the big rock we're currently on. We're not quite at the top. I might just head up here and see if I can see the view going in the other direction. There we go, that's good enough. I don't really feel like venturing more that way. Let's head back towards the sausages. So I realized I actually had some facts about that big rock we were on, and I forgot to say them. Should have said them on top of the rock. But originally, it's called Coarin Rock. It was originally a water reserve, but was later used for recreational reasons. This was until the 1980s, when it was actually at threat of being turned into a quarry. Thankfully, the community rallied against the proposal, and it was saved. Most of the Wheatbelt has already been cleared, so there's a significant native enclave that's worth saving, at least in my opinion. But having said that, apparently a sample of pink granite was taken from the top of the rock and turned into a coffee table. That currently sits somewhere in the Bruce Rock Council chambers. Okay, so we're back at camp, and the ants are now all over the mat, and the flies are out too, so I think we'll get breakfast on and get out of here pretty quick. I did realize yesterday I forgot to talk about the actual decline of Kwolyin, why it's no longer here. So this basically goes all the way back to the early 20th century, and it was a very slow decline, but the railway department lobbied for a planned spur line from the Goldfields water supply. They were gunning for Kwolyin instead of Shackleton, as they wanted it for railway barracks. And the reason for that is because Kwolyin had a pub. However, local farmers objected to the pipeline as they didn't want to pay the water rates, and I just don't think they wanted a pipe going through their property. They were doing just fine with their existing groundwater. So, as such, in 1916, the spur was instead built to Shackleton. So, Kwolyin had a pub, and Shackleton didn't, but Shackleton had water, and Kwolyin didn't. And after a while, that was just a deal breaker for many. Businesses shut up shop, and eventually moved just 7 kilometers down the road to Shackleton. And this was the start of a very slow decline for Kwolyin. And eventually, you know, the shop burnt down in the 1960s. A lot of other businesses had moved on by then. And basically all that was left for many years was the pub. And then that burnt down in the early 1990s. So yeah, that's a shame, but for what it's worth, it is a pretty nice campsite. So I'm not gonna say I know how I did it, but I somehow got the chain shelter back in. I'll show you the video I was using. I don't think it really helped me at the end of the day, but yeah, good idea, but needs the right pegs. Okay, and we're all packed up. Car needs a wash, but overall, successful camp, except for the changing tent. But like I said, I'll grab some nice bigger tent pegs next time around. The mat, huge success. I'm very happy I bought that. That's $35 well spent. So I highly recommend that. Kings, I'll put the link down in the description. There's no like affiliate links, or it's not sponsored or anything like that. It's just a product that I bought with my own money, and I thought it was good, so I'm happy to recommend it. Otherwise, great campsite too. This has been our second trip here. the Kwolyin ghost town campsite. Today is the last day of spring. Flies are starting to come out. The heat wasn't too bad. It was quite cool during the night, although it did get a bit windy, hence the tent blowing over. But yeah, that's it. Not really much else to say. There's a car coming now, so I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye.